Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Wolfgang. So, throughout 2025, I've been doing this little thing. I've been keeping track of every single album I listen to and writing very brief, very unthorough reviews of them. This video is a summary of each one of them while I listen to them. So if I listen to an album in January, I'll be talking about what I thought about it in January. Now, obviously, it is 2026 now, which means it's been, like, almost a year for some of these. So, a lot of my thoughts will be inaccurate. So, you see, right up here, up in this corner, you'll see a red box every time that I have an opinion I no longer agree with. And there's going to be another box, we'll put it up here, for every time that, like, the ranking I give is no longer accurate, not because I no longer agree with the score, but because my scoring metric changed. You'll see throughout this review a couple times, the metric for my scoring changed a little bit, so there'll be this box up here to indicate that. And again, this box to indicate opinions I no longer agree with, and there'll usually be a caption here, around here, to indicate what the disagreement is. So let's get into it. I had a bit of a resolution this month. My resolution was to get into progressive rock as a music genre. I was always into Pink Floyd, in fact I've been into them for more than a year as of writing this, but I've never really explored the rest of the genre. And I figured if I like Pink Floyd so much, I'll probably love other progressive rock music. And oh my god, I love progressive rock so much. It is easily my favorite genre of music. I love it to pieces. Not that the genre doesn't have its problems, but the highs of progressive rock are not only the highs of all music, but the highs of all works of art. So the first progressive rock album I ever heard, not counting Pink Floyd, was Close to the Edge by Yes, which I listened to on January 3rd. Now, I had heard the 18-minute title track from this album while on a road trip with my dad, but I wasn't actively listening to it, and I couldn't hear it very well, which made the listening to it intentionally pretty much an entirely different experience. The first time I heard it in my dad's car, I couldn't see the progress bar, and I wasn't actively listening to it, so I thought the song went on for like 4 hours. That means that the first time I heard it on the album, my actual first thought was, well, that was kind of short. The song is 18 minutes long. Anyway, the song and the album itself are incredible. The album consists of a total of 3 songs. Count them, 1, 2, 3. 3 songs, but hey, I mean, each of those songs are really good, so it's okay. This isn't super relevant, but I always found the length of the album funny. Like, the album is 37 minutes long. The first song is 18.5 minutes long. The second song, which starts the second side, is 10 minutes long. The third song is 8 minutes long. This makes both sides 18.5 minutes long, which makes the album 37 minutes long. I don't know what it is, but there's just something fun about that. It's some kind of fun math thing, I don't know. The second progressive rock album I heard on January 6th was Fragile by Yes. So this album was weird because 5 of the 9 songs were created by each member individually. Because their licensing agreement paid them by the songs they wrote, this resulted in an album where 5 songs were clearly written by one individual person, and none of those songs are really that great. This also resulted in an album with 5% for nothing. However, the thing about this album is that, like, the 4 songs that were written together by the band are really good. Like, Roundabout is iconic, South Side of the Sky is excellent, Long Distance Runaround is underrated, and Heart of the Sunrise is literally my #1 favorite song of all time as of this month. So the album is basically those 4 songs, with some weird filler in between. It creates a bit of a mess of an album, again, with some incredibly high highs, and with some lows that are never boring, and they keep you on your toes, but I just don't want to listen to them. In the Court of the Crimson. The third progressive rock album I heard on January 7th was In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. This album... Okay, so the album's cover is a close-up painting of a screaming man decked out in red. The first song from it, which I heard beforehand, is 21st Century Schizoid Man. The song features heavy guitar work, distorted screaming vocals, and a high pace. Everywhere I looked described the album as one of the first progressive rock albums and one of the first heavy metal albums. So imagine my surprise when the second song starts and it's this peaceful little flute song with quiet, calm vocals, almost no distortion on the guitar at all, stringed instruments, and a considerably slower pace. I thought, well, that's weird. I mean, the song's really good, but I'm excited to get back to the rock stuff. And then it just didn't do that. I believe the only song on the entire rest of the album with any notable guitar work at all is the titular In the Court of the Crimson King, and even then it's not particularly distorted there. I don't know, it was a weird juxtaposition. And not that the album was bad, it's another one of the best albums I've ever heard. In fact, I have it ranked above Close to the Edge. It's just, like, look up a picture of the cover art of this album, and then listen to the second, third, fourth, or fifth song, and tell me how fitting you think the cover really is. I honestly don't even really like the cover as an album cover. I mean, as a piece of art, it's great, and as, like, a statement, it's great, but it really doesn't fit as an album cover, you know? I've seen all good people. After this, on January 13th, was the Yes album, parentheses 1971, not to be confused with the other Yes albums I listened to, or to be confused with Yes, parentheses 1969, Yessongs 1973, Yes Shows 1980, Yes Singles 2023, Yesterdays 75, or any other Yes albums, especially not any other Yes albums released in 1971, including Fragile or Yale Bull 71, which released in 2024. This album's not that great. I understand it was a breakthrough for the band as it was their first album released entirely of new material and their first album to break any major sales awards, but I mean, it's just not great. I didn't really care about any of the songs, and I actually felt they were a bit too long in some instances, which, if I'm a progressive rock fan and I'm calling your song too long, it's a pretty big insult. I don't know. I remember liking Starship Trooper at the time, but I literally don't remember anything from that song today. The next progressive rock album I heard was on January 22nd with Red by King Crimson, and oh my god, this album is so good! This is the best progressive rock album I've heard so far, hands down. Not counting Pink Floyd. Hell, even with counting Pink Floyd, it's number 4 on that entire list, and that list includes live albums, it'd be number 3 on the studio albums list. This album is kind of similar in structure and emotions to In the Court of the Crimson King, but the difference is that it actually has some guitar work on it. What it loses slightly in emotion and makes up for in just indescribably better sound. It's produced better, it's more fun to listen to, each song is more creative, it's just such a good album. It also has my 4th favorite song on it of all time, Starless. Remember back to Fragile, how Hard the Sunrise is my number 1 favorite song of all time. Anyway, Red is an absolutely excellent album. I adore it. It's peak fiction.
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
And finally, on January 28th, we have Journey to the Center of the Earth by Rick Wakeman. He was the keyboardist for Yes during a lot of their 70s albums. This album, it's weird. So it's like, it's kind of like a rock opera, but it's not really an opera because the events aren't being sung about, they're just being narrated in prose, usually with very little instrumental, and they just interject the narration in between songs. I mean, it's definitely still a concept album, it still tells a story, but it's not being sung for the most part. It's really good narration, but still, it's weird. This leads me to my second issue with the album. I don't like the story. It's a fantastical, magical 1800 story. Those are 3 of my least favorite adjectives to describe a story. It sucks because the album is fantastic and I really want to love it, and I think I do. But still, they're interjecting this excellent album every once in a while with basically an audiobook reading of a story that I don't really care about. The music of the album ties in the story, and every once in a while that's cool, like with the Battle of the Serpent and the, other underwater creature. I forgot what it was, but still. I forgot to write an intro speech during February, so I don't have one. Sorry. The first album I listened to in February was Tales from Topographic Oceans by Yes on February 5th. This album is basically the highest form of progressive rock. It's an hour and a half long, and it consists of 4 songs, each song being 20 minutes long. This album needs a dedicated progressive rock fan to enjoy because any normal person would consider it slop. Now, I would consider myself a dedicated progressive rock fan, so what do I think? Oh my god! I believe this is my number 1 favorite progressive rock album that isn't Pink Floyd, and it might be the progressive rock album I enjoy listening to most. I'm not sure because I haven't listened to Wish You Were Here in a little while, but what I do know is that this album is above every other Pink Floyd album, and it's also definitely beneath Wish You Were Here. I adore this album. Every piece is so intricately constructed, so tightly written, so masterfully composed, it's genuinely a marvel to listen to. Again, don't listen to this album. You have to be a really dedicated progressive rock fan to enjoy it, but I consider myself a really dedicated progressive rock fan, so I love this album. The next album I heard was Starless and Bible Black by King Crimson, which I heard on February 7th. I don't know, it just didn't click with me. It's probably like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, but it never clicked with me. Most of it is a live album edited in the studio to sound like a studio album, so I guess it's less intentional than In the Court of the Crimson King and Red, so I guess that's why I didn't like it as much. Not that I didn't like it, again, it's still a great album, it just didn't resonate with me the same way as Court or Red. Oh, also, the first song drops the F slur within the first 1 minute, so that definitely took me back. I like each song here, I just don't really remember a lot of them. Starless Metal Black feels like basically an inferior version of Red. It feels like it wants to be Red, but every track is less deliberate and doesn't aspire to the same heights. I still want to check out In the Wake of Poseidon by King Crimson because I've heard that one's really similar to Court, but if it's in the same boat as Starless Metal Black, then I'm gonna be sad. After this, on February 20th, was Quadrophenia by The Who. It's so good. I forgot how much I loved rock operas. I needed this album to remind me. This album is absolutely brilliant. You know, I liked Tommy, but I had no idea that this was what The Who was capable of achieving. When they stopped trying to be psychedelic and started trying to be their own thing, they created this absolute marvel of an album. The music is so good. It's always energetic, it always ties in the story, and I love the use of leitmotifs throughout the album. The story? I mean, I'll give the actual story itself to Tommy, but the story is presented so much grander in Quadrophenia. The story is just, there's this guy who's an outcast in society, who's in a gang but doesn't really affiliate with them, who loves his ex-girlfriend even though she doesn't love him, who wants to work but can't, and he doesn't know what he's doing with his life. But it's presented in just such a grand, deliberate way that makes the story feel so much greater and more important. I love how it starts. It starts off like a proper rock opera with a weird and confusing first track you can come back in future listens, and suddenly it makes sense. I honestly think I Am the Sea might be better than Speak to Me from the Dark Side of the Moon in terms of looking back on future listenings and saying, oh yeah, I get that. I have a lot more I could say about this album if I put some thought into it, but just know it's currently my 9th favorite album, which seems kind of small, but that's in between 3 Pink Floyd albums and Red by King Crimson. 21st Century Breakdown! Finally, on February 26th, we have 21st Century Breakdown by Green Day. And I don't know how they did it, but they made an album even better than American Idiot. Based on the other albums I've talked about, you probably wouldn't think I like Green Day. And you'd be right, I don't like Green Day. I love Green Day. American Idiot was literally my 3rd favorite album out of 19 10 out of 10 albums I've heard. And somehow, 21st Century Breakdown was not only another 10, it was better than American Idiot. Better concept, better music, better leitmotifs, better moral and lesson, better production, better lyrics. How did they do it? I wouldn't consider myself an active punk rock fan, but I would consider myself an active rock opera fan, and this album is another incredible rock opera from Green Day. I don't believe they have any other rock operas, but I believe this album should be revered as the brilliant masterpiece that it is, especially compared to American Idiot. I mean, American Idiot is currently my 4th favorite album, so it's still incredibly high, but like, oh my god. March was a lighter month in terms of albums I listened to, but that's because most of March was spent reforming my tastes and really checking my favorites list to make sure they were still accurate. Last month, I said there was absolutely no way Tales from Topographic Oceans would ever overtake Wish You Were Here as my favorite progressive rock album. Well, 2 things happened. First, Wish You Were Here and The Dark Side of the Moon both moved down. They both moved so far down that currently they're not even on the list. I'll give them like 4 months, and I'm sure when I return they're going to be on the list, but for now they're not even there. They're simply stale as is. Second, Tales from Topographic Oceans moved up. How much? Well, it is currently my favorite album of all time. I'm not really sure what happened, but the more and more I listen to it, the less its flaws show, and the more its brilliance shows. The album is genuinely a masterpiece. It's easily the best album Yes ever made, and it's the pinnacle of the progressive rock genre. Alright, so on March 6th, I listened to IGOR by Tyler, the Creator. You know, I saw this album on a ton of album lists from people, so I figured I'd check it out, and what do you know, it's fantastic. It's definitely a little slow, especially on first listen, so I didn't love it then, but I could definitely tell there was something there. And the more and more I listened, the more I heard that something. This is such a tightly structured album, so deliberate in its composition, with a great, well-executed, relatable story. It has its high parts, it has its slow parts, it moves like a relationship does, especially like an unrealistic crush does. I definitely hear a little bit of myself in the character Igor, and I think many other people can too. This album cracked my 10 out of 10 list, and I honestly wish I could move it up a little higher, because it feels like it deserves to be higher than the very bottom of it. Next up on March 11th, wait, this was in March? Anyway, on March 11th, I listened to Relayer by Yes. I mean, yeah, it's really good. Another 10 out of 10 by Yes. What else is new? Well, what's new is that song Sound Chaser. That song sounds nothing like anything they've ever made before. I would kind of say that for the 23-minute side-long song, The Gates of Delirium. The structure of this album might seem a little bit derivative of Close to the Edge, but the lengthy track and the album in general are really different. The main track is a lot less heavy than Close to the Edge or anything from Topographic Oceans, with it almost sounding a bit jammy at some points. Not to say it isn't a tightly constructed song, it's just deliberately less grand than other side-long songs. The ending of the song is really nice. Typically in long songs like these, the slow emotional part is in the middle, so it can climax at the end, but I'd say they made it work really well here. I definitely call the album a 10 out of 10, or at least I call it an album that cracks the criteria for me of being a very good album. I'm not sure if that means a 10 out of 10 or like a 7 out of 10 because my scale is really weird. No, whatever, good album. Great album, in fact. Bit less heavy and a bit less deliberate than their previous two albums, but still good. Next up, on March 18th, I listened to Larks, Tongues, and Aspic by King Crimson. And like, do I even like King Crimson? I mean, I like Red and I like In the Court of the Crimson King, but those are albums. Do I like the band in general? Honestly, I'm not sure if I do, because this is another weird, slow, experimental, improvisational, mathematical album, and like, I don't like those. I like Red and Court because of how tightly composed and deliberate they are, but when most of their catalog is improvisational, experimental, confusing music like this, I'm not even sure if I like them. I will say, I think Larks, Tongues, and Aspic isn't a bad album. In fact, it's probably a good album, but it's really not for me. And I wish it was, because this album has a really great structure that I wish was used for a better album. Which is to say, I like it when an album opens with part 1 of a song and then ends with part 2 of it, or some variation of that order. Real shame it was used here. I wish Larks, Tongues, and Aspic part 1 wasn't slow as hell, and that part 2 wasn't drawn out and repetitive. The only song I really did like here was Easy Money, and I think the main reason for that is just because it had the best ratio of boring to non-boring parts. I like Red and I like Court, but do I like King Crimson as a whole? I don't think so.
Wolf.
The final album I heard was Wolf by Tyler, the Creator on March 25th. This album... Okay, so remember what I had to say about Tales from Topographic Oceans? I said it was a totally polarizing album, that if you weren't a vehement fan of progressive rock, you would hate the album. That's Wolf to me. I wasn't a vehement fan of Tyler, the Creator. I'd only heard one album by him. So go from this flowing, intricate album with a simple story and tight composition to this weird, confusing, kind of sloppy, bizarre, just what the hell is this album? I'm pretty sure I liked it. In fact, I'm pretty sure I liked it a lot, but like, what is it? There's some kind of story here that I believe spans across 3 albums, 2 of which I haven't heard, so I'm not even sure if I could figure out the story if I tried. The album is very profane, and like, I'm not opposed to any profanity or crudeness in an album. IGOR definitely had a decent bit already, and I do say my share of fucks and shits from time to time. The difference is just that, like, here's a line from the album here.
I'm okie dokie and loopy and boo boo na na and caca.
And here's another.
So a couple facts drew a little his fit. Came to pitchfork with a couple Jada Pickett signs and said I was a racist homophobic. So I grabbed Lucas and filmed us kissing.
And another.
I'm sick of hacking and coughing. I'm often it's fucking awesome. I'm animals, Noah's Ark. And
Also, the main character in the album's name is Wolfgang, and so like every time he says the main character's name, it's like, me? Again, I did like this album, and I will say I have a lot to say about it. I would probably have more to say about it if I re-listened to it. It's probably a 10 out of 10, but it's also the album with the line,
Get hip to the pew. You can drink piss and eat a dick in a few.
so I'm not really sure. Oh, by the way, every quote I've listed so far has been from the first 5 songs in this 18-song album. What an absolutely stacked month April was. 2 10s, 3 9s, and I did a ton of reorganizing. This was such a long, transformative month for my music taste. Let's get it started. First off was the Mollusk by Ween on April 3rd. This album... Oh my god, this album. One day I was bored, so I was like, hey guys, give me albums to listen to. My friend randomly recommended it to me. I randomly listened, and I've never been the same person since. What a strange, captivating, musical, cohesive, specific, unorganized, incoherent, weird, brilliant, stupid. There's so many adjectives that can describe this album. Is good one of them? Absolutely. Every single time I listen to this album, it gets better and better. Every time I listen, I dislike the bad songs less and less. Every time I listen, my list of favorite songs from it changes. Every time I listen, I discover something new and interesting from the album. This album is strange, like it's weird. Honestly, I'm shocked that friend likes it at all, because it seems like the exact opposite thing he'd be interested in. But then again, it's just such a well-made album, I can totally see him liking it. And it's such a well-made album that I like it a lot! I feel like I have to recommend this album to everybody, because I knew nothing about Ween, and I still love this album. I did know about Ocean Man. Very, very strange album, but utterly captivating, subversively well-made, incredibly creative, great concept, excellent production, just what an amazing album this is. This is a 10 out of 10 if I've ever heard it. Next up on April 5th, wow, that's 2 whole days after the last one, was Boston's self-titled debut album. This album is really, really good. Every song on it is perfect, it's really well crafted, and I just don't care. I wouldn't say I don't care, it's just like, the album means nothing to me. It's like, it's excellent, it's perfectly constructed, there isn't a bad song on it, it's just not sticking with me. It's like it's just an album, with every song being the same length, there's no concept, the lyrics are standard, the instruments never change. It's not like every single song in here is the same song as the last song, and it's not like it has bad lyrics or bad instruments or anything. It's just that they sound the same throughout. If this songwriting, these instruments, and these lyrics were used on something more conceptual, that'd be the easiest 10 I've ever given in my life. But as they are, being that they're just in a standard album, every song on here is good, but the album is just less than some of its parts. After this, on April 11th, was Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe's self-titled debut album. Guess why I picked this one? See, what I didn't realize is that this album came out in 1989, which was a whole 17 years after the last album every member was on, and 11 years since the last album with Anderson, Wakeman, and Howe. And like, you can feel it. This album is good, but it doesn't sound like their A game. Most songs are too long, most songs are too standard. It sounds very different from their 70s work. I can't really identify any standouts from any of the members except Anderson. Like, this is a big change. You put on Close to the Edge, you can easily find specific highlights from Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. You put on Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, and none of them really stand out. And that's kind of the big deal when the album is titled Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe. I don't know, I never paid too much attention to the album when it was on, so it's possible I missed something, but, like, I think that says more about how the album never gripped me. I didn't need to be paying attention to Close to the Edge for it to grip me. The first time I listened to that album, it was playing in the background while I was playing GTA 5, so, like, I don't think I'm in the wrong to say Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe could have been more tight, and could have given each member more time to shine. I'm sure they'll improve in their next studio. Oh, it's the only one they made. Well, they made Union with Yes, I'll have to check that out. By the way, this album is still good. I don't think I talked about that enough. Like, this is still a good album. Following this on April 16th was The Six Wives of Henry VIII by Rick Wakeman. First off, let me say, amazing cover. It's 4 of the wives, the man himself, and Rick Wakeman himself, with Rick Wakeman looking like he just happened to walk on set while they were taking a picture, despite each of the famous historical people being paintings. Amazing. Anyway, this album's super good. I mean, I don't love it, mostly because it's hard to love an instrumental album, but this is still super good. I wish the tracks were more diverse. Like, they're diverse enough, but I wish they were more diverse. You know, like, the soundtrack to Ultra Galactic 2 is an instrumental, and each of the tracks there are totally diverse. I mean, that's not a totally fair comparison, because the soundtrack to Ultra Galactic 2 was made with a digital audio workspace, so, I mean, he did most of what he could, I guess. Album's good. Album's not a 10, but album's good. Album's probably too long. Album's also 36 minutes long, so I mean, the original plan was to include Henry VIII himself as a song, and honestly, I'm not sure why I didn't just do that, because if it was an issue of length, I feel like some of the songs here could have been shorter. Oh well, it's still a good album, but it could have used a bit of work. It's also still a good album from 1973, and that's good because 1973 is my favorite year for music, I decided. After this was Discipline by King Crimson on April 21st. So, okay, remember what I said about not liking King Crimson? Well, I will maintain, I don't like King Crimson in the 70s, or at the very least, I don't like King Crimson between the years 1972 and 1975, but god damn it, I love Discipline. Like, if In the Court of the Crimson King invented rock and jazz fusion in one type of progressive rock, and Red invented math rock and perfected that type of progressive rock, then Discipline invented post-progressive rock. Wow, who would have thought that if I like progressive rock, I would also like progressive rock, but later. Specifically, progressive rock with 80s production with 80s sounding synths. And that's the thing, like, they're not even synths, they're just guitars with a synth-sounding amp. I don't know, whatever. The album's still excellent. I will say it took me a bit of time to get used to this new vocalist, Adrian Belew. He sounds nothing like Greg Lake or John Wynn, and I definitely say he's the least amazing of the three main vocalists. But damn it, he's still good. I really like the vocals on Thela Hunjinji, where he's not even singing, he's just talking about a real story. I also really like Indiscipline, just in general. I'm not even sure why, but that's just my favorite King Crimson song. Well, except Epitaph, but like, Indiscipline is my favorite King Crimson song that sounds like what King Crimson sounds like. Or at least my favorite song that sounds like what most of King Crimson sounds like. Well, except Starless, but that's Starless. That's 10 minutes long. So okay, I don't know. Okay, it's a good album. It's a good song. It's a really good album. May 2025 was absolutely insane in terms of albums I listened to. Like seriously, I cannot stress this enough. I listened to so much this month, and so much of it was good, and so much of it was varied, and it's just this month was life-changing for my music taste. Alright, first up was OK Computer by Radiohead on May 1st. This is always an album that's on the bottom of my priorities in terms of listening, but for some reason I decided to check it out anyway. And it's amazing. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm the world's biggest Radiohead fan or whatever. I mean, I don't really want to associate with Radiohead fans, because like, what am I, some kind of fucking Radiohead fan? I mean, I guess so, because this album's incredible. Normally, this wouldn't really be my kind of music, but it was just so well made, I have to say I love it. My favorite song was definitely Fitter Happier. That song's just an absolute roller coaster. And while it's the shortest song of the album, it does everything it sets out to do so incredibly well that I almost cried when I first listened. I almost cried at No Surprises too. This album is an incredibly moving work of art that I have to recommend to basically anyone. It's fantastic. Okay, next up was Remaining Light by Talking Heads on May 5th. I saw this album on a bunch of lists and thought it might seem interesting, so I checked it out, and it sucked. This genuinely might be one of my least favorite albums of all time. I genuinely don't understand what anyone can see in this album. It's a bunch of pointless, directionless meandering with zero intentionality in its writing. A bunch of instruments that were just included just to be included. Lyrics that were written literally just for the sake of writing something down. Awful vocals, awful production. It's terrible. I've asked people what they see in the album, and they say how it's fun, how stupid and meandery and meaningless and sloppy and unproduced and accidental and ridiculous and poorly crafted the album is, but I like it when albums are good. Following that was Drama by Yes on May 7th. I'm not sure why I listened to this one, I think it's just because the cover was cool. So is the album good? Yeah, I'd say it's good. It's just nothing crazy. I mean, in theory, it should be crazy. They have 3 of the 5 main Yes members. They have better production on this album than maybe any previous Yes album. But for some reason, it's not doing it for me. I don't know, like 2 of the songs, namely Machine Messiah and Tempest Fugit, are really good. But it feels like it's missing something. And obviously that something is John Anderson and Rick Wakeman, but you know, I don't know who was the creative lead on this album, you know? Like with most of Yes, it's John Anderson, but I don't know if this album it was Trevor Horn or Steve Howe or Chris Squire or who. I don't know. What I do know is that this album is pretty darn good. In fact, it's one of my honorable mentions, but it's not a 10. It just never clicked with me. After this was Brain Salad Surgery by Emerson, Lake and Palmer on May 12th. This album is amazing! Oh my god! I can't believe this is from a band I only listened to because my dad recommended them. A band I never thought I liked in the first place. An album I only listened to because it was released on the same day as Topographic Oceans. I can't believe it was this good. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like this is a perfect album because it's definitely not. I mean, come on, Toccata's right there. But I also think Toccata is emblematic of why I'm so utterly in love with this album. Because while it's not perfect, it has such a well-crafted sound, one that's simultaneously so fun and yet so serious, one that can accomplish any feeling they set out to do, one that's diverse and changing yet constant and reliable. I don't know, man, it's just so good. The first 4 songs of the album are all excellent. I think my favorite one is Benny the Bouncer because it's simultaneously funny while still being an excellent showcase of their musical abilities. But the main chunk of the album, in fact more than half the album, which I could talk about separately, is Carn Evil 9. This absolutely amazing song about technology and consumerism taking over the world. God, I love dystopian media. And also, God, I love Great Lake's voice! Carnival 9 is flawed. I think it's a little meandery in parts of the third impression and the second impression, but my god, when it hits, it's incredible. The entire album is incredible. Again, flawed, but excellent. I have to recommend this to pretty much anyone, honestly. It's just such a unique sounding album, so well put together, just so good. We just passed the halfway mark for May. Again, May was an absolutely stacked month. This brings us to Quebec by Ween on May 16th. I was excited to listen to this album because I heard it was far darker than the Mollusk was, and yeah, it definitely is. There's maybe only 3 or 4 goofy songs in here, and the rest of them are slow, somber songs, which is pretty unusual for Ween as far as I can tell. Luckily, it's still good. It's still quite good, actually. Like, I enjoy this album a lot. But, like, it's a slow, introspective, serious listen. That's kind of unusual for Ween. I like the beginning half more than the ending half. By the ending, nearly every song becomes slow and serious, but in the beginning, it's a better mix. My favorite song is Tried and True. That song has such a warm summer night kind of vibe, maybe like a road trip vibe, or I don't know, it's a vibe. That's a lot of the album. A lot of the album is a vibe. Great album. I personally like it a little less than the Mollusk, and I think that's the general consensus, but it's still a good album. Following that was The Bends by Radiohead on May 20th. Now, I know I said I don't want to come across as some huge Radiohead head, but some of my favorite songs on OK Computer were the guitar-focused one, so I figured this mostly guitar-focused album would be better than OK Computer. Was it? No, it wasn't. It was definitely still good. Matter of fact, it would still make my honorable mention list if I remembered to put it on there. But the guitar focus means all the emotional elements of OK Computer are lost, and the album loses a lot of its purpose. It doesn't really flow as an album. It just feels like a bunch of unconnected, different feeling songs. I want to clarify, it's still good, but I don't think it's great as an album, and I only remember like 4 songs from it too. Afterwards was Yessongs by Yes on May 24th. Why did I listen to this album? Cause it's Yes, and cause it's 1973. I thought this was also considered a good and important album, so, I wanted to check it out because of that. So what did I think? I mean, it was definitely good, but it has some problems. And by problems, I mean it has one problem, and by one problem, I mean listen to it. It's, like, really low quality for some reason. I mean, I get this was cutting-edge technology for the time that cost an arm and leg to install, but, it's the year 2025. I shouldn't have to settle for what was cutting-edge in 1973. I'm being pretty mean here. You get used to the sound if you listen to it for long enough. Anyway, this album taught me something. It taught me that whatever I thought Yes sounded like is nothing what Yes thought Yes sounded like. My top 3 favorite Yes albums are Topographic Oceans, Close to the Edge, and Relayer. I like Yes as a progressive rock band, but based on the fact that 47 minutes of this album is the Yes album, parentheses 1971, the largest chunk of songs from this album, I guess I thought wrong. The album really changed how I thought about the band, and I gotta say, I prefer the way I was thinking earlier. I don't hate the Yes album, parentheses 1971, but I don't really like it either. So much meandering, so little direction, and it never feels like the songs have any high moments or low moments. It's not boring, but it's just nothing too interesting. The songs from it are way better in Yes songs, but I don't know. This is a good live album, I think. I like the songs from Fragile and Close to the Edge a lot. And finally, on May 29th, was Tormato by Yes. That's pronounced Tormato, by the way, not Tormato, because it's British. Anyway, I haven't really heard enough of this album for it to become ingrained in my head like some of these other albums, but I'm pretty sure it's still a 10 out of 10. Wait, let me elaborate. Right now, as I'm sitting here, the album is a 10 out of 10 for me. See, here's the thing. I organized my favorite albums with this thing called a topster, which creates a grid of the albums. The most popular way to organize albums is in a 5x5 square grid. I currently have 24 10 out of 10 albums, which means I'm 1 album off from having a full 5x5 square, so I'm really desperate for a 10 here. Luckily, I still think the album would be a 10 regardless. This has all that Yes sound, but in an album that, isn't meandery. I use the word meandery a lot because I like it, goddamn. But this album's really well done. It's nice and flowing, there isn't a bad song on it, it's great. It kind of sounds like a better version of Emerson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe, to be honest. This album sounds more Yes-y than that album does, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about this album. This is another one of those instances where I only listen to the album because my dad recommended it to me. Great album, though. Each song here is great, fun, deliberate, distinct. It's a damn good album. By the time June 4th had rolled around, I hadn't listened to a single new album. And that was huge, because June 4th, 2025 was the release date of DELTARUNE Chapters 3 and 4. So I decided then and there that I would only listen to 1 album the entire month. The only new album I listened to in June 2025 was the soundtrack to DELTARUNE Chapters 3 and 4. And oh my god, what a mistake that was. We would have a real situation on our hands if this album wasn't a 10, so luckily it is. It's still not very cohesive as an album, but every song on it is good, and it's a really effective soundtrack for the game. I mean, obviously it is, it's Toby Fox. What's good about this album is the fact that I haven't over-listened to it to death. I'd venture to guess the soundtracks to Deltarune Chapter 1 and 2 are 2 of my top 5 most listened to albums of all time. So I wanted to listen to this album because, you know, it couldn't have been that way. Fortunately, it's also just straight up better than the soundtracks to Deltarune Chapters 1 and 2. So many highlights, so many good songs, so many honest-to-God surprises on this album. I really, really want Toby Fox to make an actual dedicated album one day, just like a standalone album. Preferably one that isn't The Baby Is You. But like, just one standalone kick-ass album, not related to Undertale or Deltarune, even though Undertale and Deltarune are the single most important piece of art in my life. I still just wanted to make just one dedicated standalone album with no songs that are, you know, less than 30 seconds long. That would be awesome. July 2025. Oh my god. Now, I haven't written a lot of music reviews in a while, so I might be a little rusty, but I've got some truly fantastic albums to cover here, and some fine ones too. I deliberately went into the month only listening to albums by artists I haven't heard before, so we've got tons of new grounds to cover. The first album I listened to on July 1st was To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. Holy shit, what an album. I mean, like, obviously, you don't get to number 1 of all time on Rate Your Music for nothing. You can get to number 12, though. But, like, this album, my lord, what an eye-opening album. What a profound, layered, deep, storied, rich album. It has so much to say during its runtime. I don't think 10 listens would be enough to fully understand everything it has to say. It's not just about race, too. It's about Compton. It's about the rap industry. It's about Kendrick's family. It's about politics. It has so much to say. Obviously, the majority of what it has to say is about race, which is insanely eye-opening. I can genuinely say this album has greatly shifted my worldview. I mean, it's not like I was some racist scumbag before listening to this album, and it's not like I knew absolutely nothing about racial identity, but like, wow. What an eye-opener, genuinely. I implore you to check this album out, if you're someone who genuinely believes they love music. It's easily a 10. Next up, on July 6th, I listened to I, Robot by the Alan Parsons Project. That's good. It's good. I wanted to get two things out of this album. I wanted fun 70s disco music, and I wanted a really gripping concept. I got neither. Now, don't get me wrong, this is still a good album. The production is fantastic. Obviously, I mean, the band is literally named after the producer. Like, that's the focus of the Alan Parsons Project, is the production. A couple of songs are fun, and lots of songs have really high moments. It's just, like, I heard I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You on the GTA 5 rock radio, and I was hoping the rest of the album would sound like that. I was also hoping the rest of the album would have a really gripping concept. I mean, it has the concept of a good concept, but I don't feel like the lyrics really reflect the concept. I mean, it just feels like you can open up the album, read the blurb on the inside talking about what it says the concept is, and then you'll be good from there. It's definitely a cool idea, and it's definitely relevant in the modern day, but it really doesn't come into the music. Again, it's still a good album. In fact, it's still a 9, I'd say. Against the Wall. Okay, so next up on July 7th, that's one day later if you notice, was Back Against the Wall by Billy Sherwood. Or maybe it's Rebuilding the Wall. I don't know, it's the tribute to the wall that Billy Sherwood made. Honestly, I shouldn't listen to this, not because of the quality of the music, but just because, like, if the point of July was to listen to music by artists I haven't heard before, why would I listen to an album with songs I've heard before? Especially when the reason I listened to the album was because of the artists I've heard before. I mean, with that in mind, Adrian Belew, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Keith Emerson, Rick Wakeman, Alan White, John Wetton, Tony Levin, Geoff Downs, Tony Kaye, like, obviously that's crazy. That's, like, the reason I listened to the album was because it has Adrian Belew and Rick Wakeman on the same album. With that in mind, this album isn't crazy. It's The Wall, but cornier. Some of the instruments sound like they were done in Muse score. Some of the vocal performances suck. Like, John Wetton, I love you, man, but you suck in this album. This album took my favorite part of the concept of The Wall and shattered it. In the end of The Wall, the main character becomes fascinated by Nazi memorabilia, so much that they basically imagine themselves as a Nazi dictator, parading down the streets and yelling actual neo-Nazi shit in Britain. To me, this is a profoundly accurate depiction of the alt-right 30 years before the alt-right came into being. It's like these stupid teenagers and young adults who spend so much time in their isolation, so much time surrounded by Nazi shit, that they become a Nazi in and of themselves. In the original album The Wall, the ending of Waiting for the Worms has the main character shouting shit like... And let's compare that to the ending of Waiting for the Worms in Back Against the Wall.
You have the right to remain stupid. You have the right to listen to talk radio. You have the right to rush to judgment. You do not have the right to question authority.
It's some fantasy dystopian bullshit. It takes all the meaning out of the song. In terms of some other changes the album makes, nope, that's the only change. They strip Waiting for the Worms, my second favorite song, of all meaning, and it just makes it sound like a weird, washed-out, MIDI version of The Wall. I'm not sure why I listen to this album. It's, like, maybe a 7.
Selling England.
Next up, on July 11th, was Selling England by the Pound by Genesis. I listened to this album for 2 reasons. First was because I heard cool things about Genesis, and I knew nothing about them, so I figured this is the best one to check them out. Second is because this album released in 1973. 1973 is my favorite year for music. Anyway, this album is weird. One thing I noticed this album does is, like, almost every song has the same structure. It has a slow, boring intro verse, then a really hyped chorus, then a pretty cool verse, and then it repeats the same chorus and changes pretty much nothing. It's still hype, but it sounds the same as it did last time. And then it has a really long verse after that without any vocals. Maybe that was inaccurate, but, like, the main point I'm trying to get across is that pretty much each of these songs has a really cool chorus that they repeat beat for beat later in the song. At least the long ones do. Anyway, I had 2 observations about the album. First, and I'm sure it's gonna be crucified, but I don't like Peter Gabriel's voice. It just, I don't know, it sounds weird. It's weird. Second, I don't give a shit about this concept. The concept of the album is pretty clear in the title. It's about the dismantling of English culture as it gets sold to profit for America and the likes. Now, I could care about this concept, and I mean, I already do. This is one of the themes explored in The Final Cut, which is one of my all-time favorite albums. But it's like, the way they talk about this with the lyrics is like, they just kind of say things that are in England. Like, I don't know, like, let's look at a couple lyrics from Dancing with the Moonlit Night.
The captain leads us dance right on through the night.
And,
There's a fat old lady outside the saloon.
and,
You play the hobby horse, I play the fool. We'll tease the bull.
and I know there's a symbolic meaning to it, but, like, I don't care? I care about The Final Cut because I actually understand what they're talking about, and because they actually have something important to say. You want another album that talks about someone's culture being destroyed and stolen to America? To Pimp a Butterfly? Again, that album, I actually understand what they're talking about, and they actually have something important to say. I don't care that England is having its cultural identity stripped away, when A, there's no people actually being hurt by this, unlike The Final Cut and T-Pab where they explain how this actually hurts people. B, the album doesn't grip me to explain why this is an issue I should care about in the first place. And C, English culture is fucking peas on french fries. Like, to me, far and away the greatest thing Britain has is its music. So to have this album that, like, isn't great music, I don't think it helps. I mean, the album isn't bad, it's still well made, and I've been exclusively talking about the bad elements, but, like, I don't think it's amazing. It's like a 7.
Madvillain.
Following this, on May 15th, was Madvillainy by Madvillain. Kind of sad they only made 1 album together, honestly. That's not even, like, a comment about the music, it's just an observation. Okay, so, the music, I don't really love it. This album is weird because it feels like every song goes on for, like, just long enough, despite every track being 2 minutes long. It's got good production, I will say. It's also got weird production. I don't know, it feels kind of dissonant and, like, abstract? I don't know, it's fucking weird, okay? I will say, though, I'm sure I'd like this album more if I was paying more attention to the vocals, and this is what'll get me crucified, because I don't like Doom's vocals. I don't know, they never clicked with me. I mean, I like him when he's not singing. Okay, that sounds like I hate him. No, his vocals are okay. I could see why someone would like them, but they never click with me. And by extension, neither do the rest of the album. If you like this album, more power to you, absolutely. But for me, it's a 7. So that's 3 7s in a row. Could really use a win. Luckily, we got a win next up with Machine Head by Deep Purple on July 18th. I listened to this album because it's my brother's favorite album. He really likes the sound of Deep Purple. I'd already heard 4 of these 7 songs before, which means the album sounded, exactly what I expected it to sound like. It's fun, hard rock with good lyrics, somewhat unique instruments with polished sound, and apparently some progressive rock influence that I don't hear. I don't know, it's good, it's hard rock, it doesn't have any deeper layers. You've heard Smoke on the Water, you know what that sounds like. If you haven't, go listen to it. Go listen to Machine Head, in fact. I don't have anything to say about it. It's just a well-made, good-sounding album. One that sounded exactly what I expected it to sound like. It's a 9, okay? Leave me alone. Okay, so next up was 2112 by Rush on July 19th. This fucking album is incredible. Well, the song 2112 is fucking incredible, and the other songs are good. Now, is 2112 my favorite song of all time? No, but it is third. What an incredible song. It's a perfect opera, in my opinion. The music perfectly complements the story perfectly complements the music. It's just dramatic enough, and it spends just enough time not rocking to slow down and focus on its sound. The lyrics are incredible. The story is fantastic. It's just, I love this song so goddamn much. There's a reason I use it for my channel trailer. The reason is because it sounds like perfect channel trailer music, but it's also because I like the song. The rest of the album's good too. No, genuinely, the rest of the album is good. People talk about this album as if the second half is just, whatever other songs they had lying around. But I really think that's incorrect. Almost every other song here is a standout on its own. Maybe the only one that isn't is Lessons, but even then it sounds like he says Yogi Bear, so that's something. No, but Tears is a genuinely really emotional track. The Twilight Zone has great lyrics. A Passage to Bangkok also has great lyrics in a different way. Something for Nothing is a great rocking closer with a great somber outro. And Lessons is still a fun, hard, rocky song. But obviously the standard of the album is the title track. It's fantastic. Again, it's my third favorite song ever written. Perfect opera, perfect instrumentation, perfect lyrics, perfect singing. It's just utterly fantastic. And the album as a whole is amazing. It's the best album I heard this month. It's obviously a 10. Wouldn't it be nice? Following that was Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys on July 22nd. The thing about this album, right? Why the fuck would I ever put it on as an album? Every song sounds the same. Well, not the same, but there's nothing really unique in the vocals and the instrumentation. The only thing that really changes is the vibes and the lyrics, honestly. Apparently, the point of this album was to be a better album than Rubber Soul by the Beatles. From what I've heard off that album, it seems like most of the individual songs from Pet Sounds are better than most individual songs from Rubber Soul. But it also seems like Rubber Soul is just more varied. I don't know. Pet Sounds just doesn't feel like it deserves to take up as much time as it does. How much time does it take up anyway? Oh, 38 minutes? This album is less than 40 minutes long. It feels like an hour. I don't know. I don't dislike it. Definitely not. But it's just like you can put on the first 3 songs and get the gist of the entire album from just doing that. For a rating, it's maybe an 8 if we're being generous. Okay, so next up on July 25th was No Pussyfooting by Fripp and Eno. I know. Very funny title. It has the word ing in it. Anyway, this album is fantastic. I'd never listened to any ambient music before this, and after having listened to it, I gotta say, where has this been my entire life? So obviously this is a less active listening experience than some other albums, but for being just an album to pop on the background while falling asleep to or studying, it's fantastic. But even then, it's not good while studying because it's too engaging to put on then. So for me, it's this perfect balance where it's technically impressive enough and musically diverse enough to make you want to actively listen to it. But it's still ambient music, so it's still got all the textures and the soundscapes and stuff. It's this cool, interesting dichotomy. Or maybe I'm just looking too far into it, I don't know. Maybe it's just Robert Fripp fucking around the guitar and Brian Eno fucking around the synthesizer. It doesn't change the fact that it's the best thing Robert Fripp made in 1973. It's a 10. Then finally, on July 27th, I listened to Disintegration by The Cure. Alright, so I could definitely see why someone would like this album. This isn't some Remain in Light bullshit where it's objectively inferior to another album. This is a wholly justified album that, if you like, good for you. I definitely like it, I just don't love it. It's really slow with a lot of synthesizers, a lot of melancholic lyrics and vocals, and a lot less rock work than I was expecting. See, I came into this album, and I guess all of gothic music, thinking it would be more guitar-focused than it actually is. So it's not bad, it's just not what I expected, and it's not quite my thing. If I gave it more time to grow on me, it probably could, but I really don't care enough to have it do that. It's also too damn long. It's fine. It's a 9. In August, I didn't really have a theme. I just kind of listened to stuff. I mean, originally, I was only listening to stuff by bands I knew, but when I ran out of bands, I stopped doing that. This has almost definitely been my favorite month so far, but that comes with a change. I'm changing the way I rank albums. I've separated my 10s, so not only the absolute best of the best are 10s, and most of them are 9s. This means every honorable mention I had is now an 8, and it means every previous 8 is now a 7, etc. I'm not sure how exactly this affects every previous ranking in the video, and I wouldn't worry about it. There will be a thing in the top left corner you can see that shows how it's been affected. Alright, let's get it started. First up, on August 4th, was Abbey Road by the Beatles. This one I wanted to listen to in July, but I didn't because of, the rules. And oh boy, is it very good. I'm going to say a bit of a hot take, but I don't really love Come Together. The lyrics, they sure are words that are being written down and sung. The verse doesn't really build to anything, and the chorus isn't anything noteworthy either. Fortunately, I think the rest of the album is fantastic. I absolutely love the operatic feel of the second half. It's a really strange listening experience, and it's amazing. You get these little motifs from other songs of the album. You get recurring characters who intertwine with each other. You get these random abrupt cuts, and you get these transitions from one song to a completely different song. And then you just get 22 seconds of silence from the end, which follows into Her Majesty, who is a character introduced earlier on, and then just abruptly cuts out. It's such a cool experience. If you don't know much about the Beatles, you probably haven't heard most of the songs in the second half of the album, so I highly recommend you give it a listen. In fact, I highly recommend you give the entire album a listen. It's a 9, which would have been a 10 if we were using the old system.
Good Kid, Mad City.
Next up on August 6th was Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. I absolutely adore To Pimp a Butterfly. In fact, it's still a 10 with a new ranking, so I obviously had to listen to his second best album. And, yeah, this isn't my thing. See, here's the thing, right? The lyrics are still fantastic. Personally, I don't hear much of an overarching story in it, but that's probably just because I wasn't paying enough attention. But the thing is, right, the beats on this album, they're just boring. Like, you listen to T-Pab and every song has a different sounding, different feeling beat with a ton of musical influences from different musical styles, and he sings in tons of different ways on top of them. Compare this to Good Kid, Mad City, where it's just, I don't know, man, they all sound the same. They all have, like, a dark, spacious feel where they don't really change much, and they all have this really formulaic feel where every song is really long because every chorus is really long and repetitive. I want to clarify, though, a lot of the lyrics are really good. Like, they really put you in the perspective of someone living in Compton and trying to make their way out of the city with all the horrible things that happened to them and things they had to do in order to make it out alive. Sometimes his vocal performances are really good, and, like, 3 songs in total have an interesting beat, but just the album as a whole doesn't work for me. Overall, I'd say all things considered, it's a 7. Following that, on August 9th, was Hail to the Thief by Radiohead. Yeah, no, my next album after OK Computer and the Bends was Hail to the Thief. Not Kidding, not in Rainbows, no, it's Hail to the Thief. And because it was the next album I heard after OK Computer and the Bends, it really surprised me with its sound. Unfortunately, not in a positive way. I was not expecting any of these synths, and I definitely didn't expect any of these drum machines. I mean, it's not bad, it's just not what I wanted. I was told this is the political album, and maybe 3 songs are. I guess it's more political than their other stuff, but I wanted the entire album to be political. I mean, 2 plus 2 is 5 sounds like what I expected with the political lyrics and the heavy guitar, and that's far away my favorite song on the album. It's also just one of my favorite songs of all time and my number 1 favorite Radiohead song. So I wanted and expected the rest of the album to sound like that, but it just didn't. Here's the thing, the album's still really good. I mean, it's not what I wanted and it's not what I expected, but it's still really good regardless. A lot of the album is really emotional and really beautiful, with the drum machines and the synths creating this strange, alienating sound. I guess this is the sound Radiohead's actually known for, and if that's the case, damn, because I like OK Computer more. Again, I like this, but I like OK Computer more. Hail to the Thief is an 8, I think, for me. Afterwards, on August 12th, was Chocolate and Cheese by Ween, and oh boy, if we're talking albums with very surprising sounds I wasn't expecting for the band, boy have I got the album for you. See, I already know and love the Mollusk in Quebec, but I was worried that all their earlier stuff would sound like some of the stuff I heard on God, Weed, Satan. And if you're wondering what that sounds like, I mean, the title being God, Ween, Satan, one word followed by the oneness is a pretty good indicator, but we can play a clip for you here also. So I put on this album expecting more of that, and it's pretty much just beta Quebec. I mean, I'm sure it's really weird to people who don't know anything about Ween. I mean, it still has I Can't Put My Finger on It, it still has Candy, it still has the HIV song, but it's like this really slow, vibe-heavy album. It's got noticeably low production quality, like they use a drum machine for every track because they don't have an actual drummer, but I don't know, it's fun, okay? It's got great vibes and it's a great listen. I will say, though, a lot of the songs on it are, like, really morbid. Songs like Spinal Meningitis, in which a child with spinal meningitis is talking to their mother about how afraid they are of surgery and asking if they're going to, quote, see God, mommy. A lot of the album is strangely morbid like that, with tracks like the HIV song and Buenos Tardes Amigos, and it honestly just makes me feel sad. But honestly might be my least favorite part of the album, just the fact that some of it makes me feel sad. Whatever, most of the album is filled with great vibes, and the weird, chaotic songs are funny and interesting in their own way. I gotta give this album a high 8.
Call me if you get lost.
After that, on August 14th, was Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator, which I just did not get this album. It did not click with me. Like, I don't understand the concept of Wolf, and I don't get a lot of Wolf, but I understand the lyrics are crazy, the beats are fun, there's some kind of story. Call Me If You Get Lost, on the other hand, it's just like, I mean, the lyrics aren't bad, but not anything crazy. I understand a lot more of the story than Wolf, but it doesn't feel like anything crazy, and it still feels like I'm missing stuff. I mean, compare that to IGOR, where it feels like an entirely self-contained story that I understood throughout its progression and to its fullest. Also, notably, a lot of these songs are really short, and I don't feel like any of them are playlist-worthy, but they're also not, like, super serious or slow. It just feels like a lot of the tracks don't have much to say, are too short, and aren't really exciting. You know, I hate to compare albums to IGOR, but no, I don't. No, I love IGOR. This album should have just been IGOR. Whatever, it's fine. This album's fine. It's a low 7. I don't know. Next up, on August 17th, was The Night Watch by King Crimson. So I was stuck between two live albums by King Crimson, this one and Sheltering Skies. This one is from 1973, and The Sheltering Skies is from 1982. Why did I pick this one? I mean, it's because the version of Easy Money is better also, but, like, every song I've also heard from Sheltering Skies is really good too, so I don't know. I'll stick with 1973. I was kind of hoping this album would help me, like, understand what everybody else sees in Larks, Tongues, and Aspic. I think I understand the appeal of Starless and Velvet Black a little bit. I have that album as a high 8, but I've never understood Larks, Tongues, and Aspic. I mean, I like Easy Money. Okay, so here's what this album does. It takes the songs from Larks, Tongues, and Aspic, gives them a better guitar, and that's it. Great, the guitar sounds like a proper rock guitar now, and not like it was recorded in a barn in Moldova on a budget of $10. Doesn't change the fact that it's really goddamn boring at some parts. I mean, the highs are way higher than they were in the studio, but the lowlights are equally as low. It also makes a lot of the songs on Starless and Velvet Black more boring, or maybe it only uses the boring songs, I don't know. I mean, they didn't have The Great Deceiver on it for one. Whatever. This album's fine. It's good even. This is just not my favorite King Crimson lineup, and it's not my favorite King Crimson set list. I definitely messed up picking this over Sheltering Skies. Oh well, at least there's no way I could ever listen to two albums by the same artist in the same month. I'm just gonna give it a high 7. Afterwards, on August 18th, one day later, was Moving Pictures by Rush. I mean, I love 2112, but still a 10 for me, and I love Tom Sawyer, so I figured if the rest of the album sounds like Tom Sawyer, it should be amazing. And, goddammit, I should have had a different album. 2 of the songs have the same edge as Tom Sawyer. You know, that same rocking, pumped up kind of energy that Tom Sawyer has, the songs being YYZ and Witch Hunt. The rest of it's fine. The rest of it doesn't really have anything that stands out, though. It's just kind of like good 80s synth rock. Hell, even then, not all of it is. Like, I genuinely dislike the song Limelight. It's just the most basic 80s synth rock song you could ever write. Surprisingly, the 11-minute song The Camera Eye really doesn't do much for me. It's like, it's not trying to tell much of a story, or if it is, I can't really hear it, and then it has the same production and the same feel as the rest of the album. I don't know, it's not bad, I just have nothing to say about it. That's a lot of the album. The songs on it have a rocking, progressive edge, but a lot of it is just too standard and too lame. My favorite song is YYZ because it's the most progressive and most rocking. It's a high 7. Could maybe be an 8 if it didn't have that stupid song Limelight on it. Okay, so after that on August 20th was Nevermind by Nirvana. Now this is something special. I obviously don't know anything about this 90s garage band type grunge rock, but this album is fantastic. It's such a dark, dire feeling album, not in the sense of like it feels like the world is ending, but in the sense that you're sitting in some grimy basement, smoking pot, and wondering where your own life went wrong. But it's not a bad album, no, it's fantastic. I almost kind of feel like a tourist listening to this, like I shouldn't be headbanging to it because I don't understand the grunge culture, but it's just fantastic. Honestly, the entire album is fantastic. I don't know, man. What a dark, grimy, miserable, perfectly crafted album. This album is genuinely amazing, and it's easily a 9. Following this on August 22nd with... Okay, this is really embarrassing. I'm gonna have to ask you forgiveness for this. Following this was Hail to the Thief, 2003 to 2009 live recordings by Radiohead. I know, I can't believe myself either, but it's just like, I started listening to A Wolf at the Door, and then I listened to 2 plus 2 is 5, and I listened to Sit Down, Stand Up, and then I couldn't stop at this point. The album is literally just what I wanted Hail to the Thief to be. I mean, not literally, the songs still aren't political enough, but the instruments are perfect. It still has that alien edge with the synth and the drum machines, but has much more impressive vocal performances, incredibly rocking guitar. That was not what I expected to happen there. Hold on. Are we keeping this in? Are we gonna keep this in the video? Okay. It still has that alien edge with a synth and the drum machines. Alright. Okay. Okay. It still has that alien edge with the synths and the drum machines, but has much more impressive vocal performances, incredibly rocking guitar parts, and it generally keeps the high energy throughout, with a kind of punk vibe that almost makes it sound like they're saying stuff profound. And like, if having 21st Century Breakdown by Green Day is my third favorite album of all time should tell you anything, it's that I like it when an album has a punk edge, and when they use that to make it sound like they're saying something profound. I mean, even when the guitars aren't rocking, it still has more interesting vocal performances and generally more energy. It's exactly what I wanted Hail to the Thief to sound like, and it's fantastic. Not better than on Computer, but it's a 9. Next up, on August 23rd, was the Doors' self-titled debut album. See, in 9th grade in health class, we had to do a project about a celebrity drug abuse story, and I was randomly selected Jim Morrison, the frontman of the Doors. In order to learn a little more about, like, what I was doing, I did the project while listening to singles from the Doors. I really like them, so naturally I had to follow that up by listening to this album. Yup, I followed up the songs I heard in September 2023 by listening to the album in August 2025. Now that's efficiency. But the album's good. The album's also rather repetitive. I mean, it's another one of those albums where they have, like, one kind of sound at it. But it sounds really good, so it's okay. I mean, for 1967, this obviously mixed together a lot of musical ideas, but in 2025, the album just kinda... I don't know, I mean, it's like the same instruments doing the same thing every time. It's always the same organ, the same drums, the same guitar, I don't know. I think the song The End best encapsulates this idea. You can tell how utterly groundbreaking it would be for 1967, but in present day, it sounds pretty stagnant and doesn't tend to change much, and the lyrics aren't anything crazy. It's not that they're not interesting, it's just like, this isn't the craziest thing you can say. Compare this to 1967, where this literally was the single craziest thing you could say in an album. I still think the song holds up well, and I think the album as a whole still holds up well. I'd say it's an 8, a high 8. Alright, so following that on August 25th was Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. This is another album where I knew literally nothing about it and only put it on because other people said it's good, and like, damn, this is a good album. It's like he says in the album, you know, he'll make a song to make you smile, he'll write a song to make you sad, you know, there's the whole, like, diversity, you know? There's also a lot of diversity in the album's sound in general, like, I thought a lot of it would be purely piano, but there's almost no piano on it, and every song sounds really different. I've heard a total of 0 soul albums before this, but I gotta listen to more, because this is really good. This is an album I can easily recommend to anyone. if it wasn't so goddamn long. Okay, as far as I understand, the streaming version of this album adds an additional 20-minute EP to the track list. So the original album isn't an hour and 45 minutes, it's only an hour and 25 minutes. I think that would be fine. Like, that can be a good length for an album, especially one with zero filler and zero real problems in any way. I don't know, man, it's peak, okay? It's also an hour and 45 minutes long, but it's peak. And even then, the original album is only an hour and 25 minutes, so it's okay. It's even peaker that way. Give this album a listen. I swear it's fantastic. It's a high 9, and it's the best album I've heard this month. Finally, on August 27th was Long Season by Fishmans. Now, there are 3 reasons I listen to this album. First is because it's by a band called Fishmans. I mean, it's called Fishmans. That's crazy. Second is because some guy online had like a really big running bit about this album. I don't want to get too deep into it, but basically it was like literally everywhere on this one corner of the internet. And third is because I went to look it up and I saw it consisted of 1 track in total. An album with 1 track is like one of the top 5 amount of tracks for an album to have. So I listened to it despite not knowing anything about it other than it's a 1 track. And I mean, it's not bad. It's just, like, really meandery. It reminds me a lot of Echoes by Pink Floyd, how they have those 5 minutes of whale and crow noises, but, like that happens twice in the song. The high points of the song are, like, minute 5 to minute 10, where it's this chill, spacious, vibey little rock song, and then a lot of it's this rather annoying meandering on, like, at one point, they spend 3 minutes on what I assume is a toilet flushing sound effect. I will say I like this one part where the drummer goes crazy with a heavy distortion layer put on top of it. That sounds cool. And then in general, whenever it's trying to be that vibey, lo-fi feel, it works, but I feel like it's just a little annoying, a lot of it. Also, it's in Japanese, and I never heard anything in Japanese before, so I probably missed a big chunk of it because I didn't understand the lyrics. I'm feeling a low 8 just because it's not like anything I've ever heard before. September kinda sucked. I decided the theme for this month would be that I would exclusively listen to albums on the Rate Your Music Top 25. I was really worried a lot of it would be overly pretentious and I wouldn't get a lot of it, and I was kinda right. First up on September 1st was In Rainbows by Radiohead. This is the best album I heard in the month of September. Great. Fortunately, this album is fantastic. It has such a specific vibe to it with an overwhelming presence, more than nearly every other album I've heard before. I don't know how to describe it, but it has just such a spacious, encumbering, electronic feel to it. Now, obviously saying I like In Rainbows by Radiohead is the hot take of the century, but I don't know, it's really good, okay? My favorite song from it is Weird Fishes / Arpeggi, which, again, hot take of the century. To me, this album as a whole sounds like the beginning of spring, starting after a very long winter. This might be the most hopeful and optimistic Radiohead album, you know, even though it has its sad, frightening parts, it feels like it's trying to lift you out of them. Compare this to stuff like OK Computer and Hail to the Thief, where it feels like it's deliberately trying to upset you. I think my least favorite song of the album is Videotape, mostly because it never feels like it progresses and it never goes anywhere, but partially because, okay, so this is really stupid, obviously, but, like, why would their memories be captured on videotape if they're a band? Like a band that makes music? Wouldn't their memories be captured with their music? I know that's stupid, and the song is still good, I guess. The album's a 9. Next up on September 3rd was The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie. This is the only other 9 out of 10 I heard in September. Joy of joys. Let's not focus on the lull of the rest of the month and instead focus on this album as is, because it's amazing. It's full of tons of diverse instruments and ideas, with every song sounding different enough from each other, but still connected enough to each other. The only thing I'll say is, like, it sounds kind of cheap, I guess? I mean, this was 1972, we had Close to the Edge the same year, but the audio quality still feels kind of low. I don't know, I probably just pissed like 2 or 3 people way the hell off, but that's just what I think. I feel like the fact that the audio is kind of low quality limits the ability for this album to be as glamorous as it wants to be. That's why I want to check out Aladdin Sane. I've heard that's a more glamorous album than this one, and I'm really curious to check that out. As it stands though, this album is a 9. After that was September 6th with Revolver by the Beatles. So what surprised me is that I love the psychedelic elements. Tomorrow Never Knows is like one of my all-time favorite Beatles songs. Now the thing about this album is that it still feels like they weren't sure what they wanted to be. I mean, some of the songs are psychedelic, and then some of the songs are stuff like "And Your Bird Can Sing" and "I Want to Tell You," and like, they're fine, but they're really nothing crazy. The good songs on this album are really good, but the bad songs are just fine. I'll say my least favorite, Yellow Submarine. I meant to say Yellow Submarine. And I feel like people would call me hypocritical for saying I like Octopus's Garden, but I don't like Yellow Submarine. But no! Octopus's Garden is an actually fun song, where it sounds like Ringo is genuinely enjoying singing about living with the sea creatures underwater. Yellow Submarine sounds like he's not even singing with this really annoying voice, with sound effects that make it sound like they're not actually underwater, but they're at like a dinner party for some reason. And then when it does sound like a submarine, it's like, that's boring. Like, that's a normal thing for people to do, is to be in a submarine. I just realized I sound like a 5-year-old talking right now, but, like, it pisses me off, goddammit. It's not very fun, and it's not really whimsical. It's just kind of, whatever. Album's at 8. It has some real highlights and some real mid-songs, too. After this, on September 9th, was Loveless by My Bloody Valentine, which apparently left YouTube Music between when I first listened and now. So, sorry that you're not gonna get my ad revenue for this specific re-listen. Anyway, the thing about this album is that it has a really dissonant, unnatural, layered, thick, dreamlike production. A production that apparently cost a small little Irish band £250,000 in 1991. Apparently there's also some kind of sad backstory behind this album, but I never bothered to investigate that. I'm more curious about how it sounds as an album. How does it sound as an album? Well, it's weird. The thing about this album is that, like, I could never imagine myself putting it on in full. The sound is pretty stagnant throughout, and it never really reaches a high point except for a couple songs. Its highest point in terms of energy and excitement is relatively low, and it has a bunch of low excitement points to make it sound like it's building up to something great, but it never really does that. However, in terms of the songs, I mean, they're good. In terms of spicing up my playlist, though, that's where it's at. That's where this album is best at. Spicing up my playlist. And, like, I don't even listen to my playlist that much. And that's kind of sad, the fact that what this album does best is sound interesting relative to the other songs in my playlist. Ironically enough, my favorite song on the album is also by far and away the least fitting on the playlist. The song Touched is all of 57 seconds long, and it just sounds creepy and eerie the entire time. The rest of the album has a slightly eerie vibe, but the song goes all the way with it, becoming the song on the album that makes me feel the most emotions, and also the only song I really think about specifically. In terms of the rating, well, every time I think about this album, or every time a song from it comes up on my playlist, I want to give it an 8. However, every time I actually listen to it, I remember that it's probably a 7. So that's what I'm giving it. I'm giving it a 7. Next up, on September 10th, was The Velvet Underground and Nico by The Velvet Underground and Nico. I feel like I'm gonna get fried for this one, but I did not like this album. It feels like every time I re-listen, this album gets worse. I thought I liked avant-garde music, but if this is avant-garde music, I guess I don't. Every song on this album feels incredibly repetitive, but none of the songs sound like they flow as an album. The album feels so cheap. Like, I get it was 1967, but listen to this shit. I really don't like Nico's voice, which I'm sure will get me double crucified, but I think it's really annoying. I think the ending song, European Sun, is completely unnecessary. And then this is when someone would pull up that, if you can handle me at my European Sun, you don't deserve me at my Sunday morning reaction. But, like, we already had a song with those super screechy and annoying, meaningless guitars. We don't need it again. And even then, the best song on the album is still nothing crazy. Like, Sunday Morning is fine. I don't know. The best song on the album is a slow, relaxed song that doesn't go anywhere and sounds contemporary. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sure another, like, 2 or 3 of you want to crucify me right now because I slandered the name of The Velvet Underground and Nico, but I don't get it. It's like a 6. Alright, after that was September 12th with Illmatic by Nas. Okay, so somehow despite being 39 minutes long and having 10 songs, the album is still too long. It's another album where none of the songs really go anywhere, and most of the songs are like 4 minutes long, if not longer, so they all wind up feeling repetitive and annoying. I mean, each song is good on their own, sure, if not a little long, but it's just like, I don't see a reason to listen to this album as an album in full. Also, some of the choruses on this album are really annoying, like, life's a bitch, the world is yours, represent. The choruses are just so goddamn repetitive and annoying. I don't know, I don't hear anything too crazy in this album in general. It's not bad, and it's certainly impressive for a debut, but it's just kinda alright, I think. I'll say, I wanted a lot more percussion in this album. That's why I was so interested at first. I mean, the genre, boom bap, I thought meant the percussion would go really crazy, but it was fine. The album's fine. It's a 7. Okay, so next off on September 15th was Paranoid by Black Sabbath. This album was good. Now, I will say, this album feels kind of stale sometimes. Like, it feels like the same guitar tones and the same drums and the same singing every time. In fact, there are only a couple standout moments, like Planet Caravan and the intro of Iron Man, where any part of it sounds different. But I mean, that doesn't stop an album like The Doors from being good. I will also say, the first half of this album is where all the songs people actually know are on, which leaves stuff like Rat Salad and Fairies Wear Boots on the second half. I mean, these songs aren't necessarily bad, it's just that, like, everybody knows War Pigs, everybody knows Paranoid, everybody knows Iron Man, and there's just an entire second half of the album that nobody knows about. I mean, obviously not nobody if it's on the Rate Your Music Top 25, and I'm just talking about, like, in the context of songs I would hear on my dad's Forward Explorer on the Classic Rock channel. So in terms of the actual sound of the album, it's good. It just feels like none of the instruments were recorded in the same room. Not in the sense that the instruments have no cohesion, but just like, I don't know, it feels like they don't blend together. I really don't know how to explain it. And I'm not going to anymore. Album's an 8. After that, on September 17th, was Kid A by Radiohead. Okay, so as you're all aware, or as you should all be aware, VIII is out on my channel right now, and it's one of my favorite videos, one of my best videos I've ever made. So, right now, as of writing this video, Kid A is a high 8. Because, while this album obviously inspired the hell out of me, perfectly encapsulating a dissonant, confusing, unidentifiable atmosphere, an atmosphere that no album has ever been able to recreate, an album that nearly no other piece of art has ever been able to recreate, with hauntingly beautiful tracks that crush and rebuild the soul, with a completely unusual feel that has never been replicated after 25 years, is still an 8. Because here's the thing, right? I can only ever listen to this album if I'm in a Kid A kind of mood. If I'm not feeling it, listening to this album will be a complete waste of time, an experience that I won't get anything out of because it has some weird pacing inconsistencies. Like, I don't know, the inclusion of the national anthem is a bit odd, Morning Bell being sandwiched between Idiotech and Motion Picture Soundtrack is a bit weird, the fact that it ends with Untitled is strange. I feel like it could use a bit of a touch-up in its flow and its track listing. And whatever. Again, mostly the main reason it's a high 8 is just because I'm not always in the mood for it. Now, to rate it? I think I would give it a high 8 to rate it. Okay, so I listened to 2 albums the rest of the month, being A Love Supreme by John Coltrane and Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. Here's the thing, I just do not give a shit about jazz. I truly and sincerely don't. Therefore, because these are 2 towering achievements in jazz music, I just do not understand them. I mean, what I do know is that both of these albums were just not what I was looking for in any kind of music. I just fundamentally did not understand them. So I'm not going to review them, and I'm not going to give them a number grade because I just entirely did not understand what they were about. So, I didn't finish the list. The thing is, I have 3 albums left. I still haven't listened to The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady by Mingus, Vespertine by Purk, or Lift Your Skinny Fist Like Antennas to Heaven by Godspeed You Black Emperor. Now, I could sit here and make excuses as to why I'm not going to listen to them, but here's the thing, right? I don't care. I don't care about any of these albums, so I'm not gonna force myself to listen to something I don't care about. I have so many albums on the back burner I actually do want to listen to, but I haven't yet, because I've been thinking too much about how I don't want to listen to these albums. And for what? It's not like Rate Your Music is the one definitive source of finding good music. This was a stupid idea anyway. I don't know what I gained by doing this, except for 5 albums that are an 8 out of 10 or higher. And I could do that for every other month, where I don't have to listen to music I don't care about. So, sorry if you disagree with my rankings. In October, I'm going to have a lot more positive things to say, I imagine. It is with great satisfaction I can report to you that October was easily one of the best months so far for my music taste. There was so much diversity this month, so many new and interesting experiences, and I'm glad to say that nearly every single one of them made it onto my list of favorite albums. Oh, also, I changed the ranking criteria again. I split up the 9s, so now the 9s stop with In Rainbows by Radiohead, and the 8s start with Journey to the Center of the Earth by Wakeman. Therefore, all of my honorable mentions that were 8s are now 7s. So let's explain what I actually listened to this month. I have had a little list of albums I intended on listening to for like a couple months at this point. Obviously, this list existed in September, but I think I started it in August? Anyway, what I know is that at one point the list was ranked, but I kind of forgot about that and ignored those rankings in October. I just kind of picked albums at random, like I would ask my friends to pick a number, for example, and that would determine which one I listened to. I did that often, in fact. Let's get started with the ranking. So first up, on October 5th, was Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder. Why did I pick this album? Well, the main reason is because it released in 1973. The reason I'm going to pretend is a real reason, though, is because I loved Songs in the Key of Life, and I was hoping this album would be a denser, more tightly composed version of it. And I mean, it's shorter than Songs in the Key of Life, but I don't think it reaches the same climaxes as that album either. Inner Visions is definitely a smaller album, one that has less exciting climaxes, and one that generally feels slower. Now, I can definitely see how that slower feel could appeal to someone else, but to me, what made Songs of the Key of Life interesting was its large, exciting climaxes. Sorry, I don't mean to dog on this album too much. It's still great. It still has a lot of emotional moments. It has more of the joyous, optimistic sentimentality I love about Stevie Wonder, and it's a lot shorter than Songs of the Key of Life. It's not necessarily better paced than Songs of the Key of Life, but it's a lot shorter. That's a good thing, probably. My favorite song is Living for the City. Like Songs of the Key of Life, my favorite song by a noticeable margin is the political one. The takeaway is that all music should be political. Specifically, all music should conform to my political beliefs. The album's a 7 out of 10. After that, on October 9th was Purple Rain by Prince. Yeah, this album's great. Like, on the little re-listen I did while writing this segment, I think it's a lot better than I actually remember it being. This album's a huge fusion, combining together rock music, electronic synth music, and the funky vocals. This album has a lot of those 80s synth rock elements with a larger focus on the synths, which are more technical and more diverse than a lot of 80s synth rock. The use of drum machines, for example, is a really innovative and interesting idea that furthers the synthesized ideas the rest of the album has. There's a really heavy focus on a lot of different musical styles. It's a really interesting fusion. Now, I will say, the biggest thing holding this album back is the vocals. I'm sure that's some stupid and lame thing to say, but I don't get them. I mean, they never annoyed me, and I could see how the vocals could be someone else's favorite part of the album, but I don't know. I don't think they work particularly well for this synthy, rocky type of album. I mean, the chorus verses are good, but I mean, every time he screams, I don't get it. That's really the only issue I have with the album. Anyway, my favorite song is Computer Blue. It's got the biggest synth focus, and it's the most creative in my opinion. Album's a low 8. It was a 9 when it entered, but then I changed my rating system, so it's an 8. But keep in mind, an 8 is still good. Next up, on October 11th, was The Money Store by Death Grips. This is the best album I have ever heard in my life. This is the literal embodiment of This Will Be Music in 2012. This is what boomers hear every time you play the music released after the year 2010. This is the music they're playing every time you hear in a car in a city, playing music so loud you can hear it outside of their speakers. This is the kind of music to cause early onset dementia and hearing loss. Ever since first listening to this album, I've had a migraine and a ringing in my ears, which has not gone away since. You are doing a disservice to yourself by not listening to this album. It is an experience which will determine whether or not you're fit to survive the winter. My favorite song, I guess, was Hacker. I don't know, because it's hard to pick one specific song, but I like the Pink Floyd reference. This album is amazing. It's fantastic. It's insane. It is a 10 out of 10. After that was Richard D. James' album by Aphex Twin on October 16th. There's just so much going on in this album. Okay, here, let me try to explain it to someone who's never heard it. Okay, so it's an ambient, electronic, MIDI string, techno album with heavy influence on its breakbeat-inspired electronic drums, where many songs branch off and do something completely different, and whose cover is a painted image of a menacing man staring directly at the camera with his head pointed down, and whose title is the name of a real-life person behind the one-man group called Aphex Twin, followed by the word album. Got that? Okay, cool. So this album is just completely fucking insane, and that's amazing. It's like every track takes you to a different world where all the rules are different from our own world and from their own respective worlds. Now, I don't know if this is, like, a trend for Aphex Twin. Like, I don't know if all of his music is this weird and experimental. But I can tell you, if it is, I'd love to listen to more of it. I guess if I had to pick a favorite song, it'd be Finger Bib. I don't know, it's a tough choice between picking songs like Peak 824544201 and Girl/Boys Song and Goon Goompas. Especially when Goon Goompas is a percussion-free Christmas track. I don't know, man. The album's good. It's an 8 out of 10. You should definitely listen to it. Afterwards was October 18th with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. I'm really not sure how to talk about this album. It's clear that this is one of the most honest, harrowing, self-reflective albums I've ever heard. It's up there with Pinkerton and The Final Cut, and like, those albums are both 10s. The problem with this album, though, is that it's too long. And I know that's one of the stupidest, lamest criticisms I have with albums often, but it's how I feel. I feel like they could have shaved 20 minutes off from this album and made it a masterpiece. It might even be on par with To Pimp a Butterfly. I mean, probably not, but that would be like a less insane statement to make. Whatever, let's talk about this album. This album has that, like, that modern day cinematic feel, you know, like, you ever seen, like, a Disney Plus movie that was made in the 21st century? You know how they all have that same vibe? I don't know how to explain it, obviously, but this album has that 21st century cinematic feel. Probably because it released in 2022, I'm sure that had a big factor in it. Oh, also in 2020 was COVID, which this album references, like, 3 times. But it's still weird to hear it referenced every time. My favorite song, or at least my favorite track, was We Cry Together. If you've heard of Kendrick Lamar, you probably heard about this song. I have more to say. I mean, I could talk about the insane lyrical content, the huge, varied production, the intricate flow and composition of each track, the incredibly emotional themes, but I've already spoken for a while about this album. I give it a 9. It's an incredible, emotional album that could have been like 20 minutes shorter. Next up was London Calling by The Clash on October 23rd. This is one of the longest standing albums I had on that list, one that always intrigued me. I'd heard like 3 or 4 songs from The Clash, but they were really interesting, and I want to check out their biggest album. So I gave it a listen, and I mean, it was fine, I don't know. I thought a lot of the songs are really boring and repetitive, and also wasn't rocky enough, and I know that that's the point, but still, I think the songs aren't really rocky enough. They also aren't interesting enough to justify not being rocky enough. Whatever. For me, I think The Clash will always live on as that one band I like those 4 singles from. My favorite track is The Right Profile, because it's a reference to the Monument Mythos, and also because of the part. I give the album a 6, I guess. Then, on October 24th, I listened to A Farewell to Kings by Rush. So obviously, with 2112 being a 10, I thought it a disservice to not listen to more Rush. I figure that, like, this is the one that comes after 2112, so I should listen to it. The problem with this album is that it's not nearly as tight as 2112 is. I'd say 2112 has maybe 5 minutes of filler on the whole album. A Farewell to Kings has much more meandering. I mean, it has some much bigger climaxes, and unlike 2112, it has more than one throughout the album. But also, like, 2112 doesn't have any slow points during the album. It's like 2112 only has the one kind of boring part, but there's boring parts on the title track, Xanadu, Cygnus X1. Wow, look at me, a so-called prog fan calling the introductory parts boring. Well, leave me alone, damn it, I'm allowed to like whatever I want. And I like this album. I definitely do. It's got some great rocky elements, excellent vocals, interesting lyrics, lots of variety in its pacing and instrumentals. It's really good. My favorite track is Cygnus X1 Book 1, The Voyage. Wow, what a title. This one's the most progressive with the clearest story to follow and the most interesting musical ideas. That's the thing, this album has a lot of interesting musical ideas. It's just, for me, it doesn't reach the same heights as 2112. The shorter rock songs aren't really as interesting and exciting, and more significantly, the longer tracks never reach the same heights as 2112, aren't as thematically interesting, and spend too much time meandering. If the album's a 9, it's definitely really great. I'm just kind of justifying why I can't rank it any higher than that. Finally, on October 26th, was Hounds of Love by Kate Bush. Holy shit, what an album. What a captivating experience. It lures you in with 5 excellent, synthy, progressive, incredible pop songs. You get little glimpses of darker, stranger, more dreamlike parts throughout, but don't get into it, so it stands on its own. But then that second part starts, and it's all conceptual and confusing and connected. It's pretty much like a better Abbey Road. Like, the first half is nice and poppin', the second half is all weird and conceptual. It's got this overwhelmingly dreamlike, dark, disconnected feel to it, where every song sounds and feels different from each other, where they all feel like quick little glimpses inside of disconnected, dreamy worlds. My favorite song is Waking the Witch. This is the strangest, most disconnected, most chaotic song of the album. One that's a wholly different listening experience every time you listen, and one that I feel is a truly transcendent listening experience. The whole album is a transcendent listening experience. It's amazing. I can't believe there's music like this out there that I've been missing out on in my whole life. This album is a 10. Originally, my plan for November was to only listen to albums made by Yes in order to have a deeper understanding of their catalog so I could properly say they're my favorite band. You know, like, I've only heard 8 of their albums as opposed to Weezer and Pink Floyd, who I've heard like 15 each from. But here's the thing, I currently have 19 albums I'd like to listen to before those, so in November and December I'll just be listening to that list and probably adding more albums to that list. So see you then when I add another 7 albums out of what will become 25 albums on that to-listen-to list. There's so much goddamn music out there, I'm never gonna get through it all. I guess November was a slightly more serious month for me, at least relatively. I don't know. I don't really have anything unique to say about it. It was good. First off, on November 1st was Soundtracks for the Blind by Swans. I've had this album on the back burner for a while. In fact, I believe technically the first time I expressed interest in listening to it was back in June. However, I always put it off. Why? Because it's 2.5 fucking hours long, that's why. No album warrants being that long. I don't care. Not even my favorite album of all time warrants being that long. Because there's no world in which I could possibly listen to it in its entirety. It doesn't matter how utterly fantastic the album is. It doesn't matter how wholly gripping, crushing, breathtaking the sound of the album is. It doesn't matter how horrifying it is. It doesn't matter how I've never been able to stop thinking about it since the first listening. That doesn't matter. Because this album just... it's not an album. It's an experience. And I know that's obviously a played out saying, but like, Soundtracks for the Blind really is not an album. It's an experience I'm only ever going to have once because I could literally never re-listen to it. I can't give this album a numerical grade because it's not an album. I can't really recommend this album to anyone because it's completely insane on all fronts. Soundtracks for the Blind is too much to ask of anyone. At least too much to ask of me. If you're interested, you can watch the short review I made. It should be somewhere up here, maybe down there. I don't know. Again, I literally can't give it a number grade. Okay, so like, I don't know if this counts, but I'm gonna talk about it as if it counts. Next up on November 3rd was Soundtracks for the Deficit by Swans, edited by me, NAF Projects. I'm talking about this for 2 reasons. First, it's an excuse to talk positively about Soundtracks for the Blind, which I want to do. Second, it's an album on my Topster, and I first heard it in 2025, so I figured it'd be kind of weird if I didn't write a review about it. Now, obviously, like, I made this edit, but I only made the edit, you know, Swans made the actual music. Now, the point of this edit was to be Soundtracks for the Blind, but if you could actually listen to it in one sitting. And on that end, I'd say I did pretty well. It still has most of the explosive climaxes, most of the best songs, and most of the atmosphere, just an hour and 24 minutes shorter. My favorite song on it is The Sound. The reason it's my favorite is because I didn't have to do any work for it. You know, it's pretty much good to go as is. The reason it's my favorite on soundtracks for the blind, though, is because it has the same fiery climax as the other high points, with that same artistic use of compression in the tracks, with the same drawn-out, drony feel that builds you up only to abandon you and leave you with nothing by the end, while being shorter than the other ones. Now, I will say I have a couple regrets with this album. I definitely should have reworked The Final Sacrifice. The intro was too long and that it cuts too early. I also really wish I could have found a way to incorporate I Was a Prisoner in Your Skull. That was maybe my best trimming effort. You can check it on the Bandcamp release for that version. Whatever. Maybe next time I'll give myself more than 2 days to do a project like this for an album. The album's a 9. A very high 9. In fact, it's currently the highest 9 I have on my list. Check it out, maybe, if you want. Next up on November 6th was Sheltering Skies by King Crimson. So, like, I don't know how to rationalize this, but the early 80s lineup of King Crimson, you know, Blue, Fripp, Levin, Bruford, that's my favorite King Crimson lineup. Even though I think Discipline is a 9 and Red is a 10, I still consider that my favorite lineup. So I wanted to check out this live album from that area, you know, the 80s King Crimson, to see how they compare live. I'd already heard a lot of the songs beforehand, too, so it wouldn't even be super high commitment. What did I think? Well, shockingly, I still like Discipline more. The high parts of the album are even crazier and even higher energy than Discipline, but there's still a lot of low points. Not even like the album's bad, it's just kind of slow. Like, you know, the 10-minute version of The Sheltering Sky, the 8-minute version of Waiting Man, the 9-minute version of The Sheltering Sky, they have it twice. They're all pretty damn slow. So a lot of the album is on these slower songs, which really weren't what I was looking for. You know, I was looking for more stuff like in Discipline, which is my favorite song on the album. First off, love that drum solo at the start. Second off, the song keeps the same crazy energy that Discipline had in the studio and ranks it up even higher. Now, I haven't heard Beat, so I'm not sure how it compares to that, but I have heard Neil and Jack and Me, so I can tell you it's a similar story there. The energy gets ramped up even more in the live version. But shockingly, the album's still an 8 for me. I was really hoping for higher. Following that, on November 10th, was Hemispheres by Rush. I love this album! My God, what a good album! It goes to show you don't need to take up a ton of time to make an excellent experience. This album's all of 36 minutes long, and every second is masterful. It's better than A Fair Weather Kings in every way, and that album was already a 9. It cut out almost all the synth meandering, replacing it with tracks that are more interesting, with more purposeful direction and more refined sound. Now, the one thing for me, the shocking thing with this album, is it's not better than 2112. I know, I can't believe it either. But while the second half of Hemispheres is obviously more interesting than the second half of 2112, the first half of 2112 is better, and that's the best half of Hemispheres. The first half of 2112 has better storytelling, more interesting lyrics I actually understand the meaning of, a grander feel, and, I mean, the benefit of me knowing about it longer. Obviously, this isn't a take away from Hemispheres. Hemispheres is still fantastic. The first half is genuinely cinematic. Then Circumstances is a good little song. The Trees has excellent lyrics and fits a full story into just 4 minutes. And then La Via Strangiato is a really gripping song for being subtitled An Exercise in Self-Indulgence. I completely adore this album. It's a 10. After that, on November 13th, was Speaking in Tongues by Talking Heads. Now let's just get this out of the way first. Talking Heads more like Slop Ah Band. Okay, now that that's done, this album was surprisingly disappointing. You know, I like those first 4 songs from Remain the Light, so I figured if this album is just those type of songs, it'd be better, right? Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, like, I don't know what it is, but I literally can't listen to more than, like, 3 of these songs at a time without taking a break. I don't know, I might be, like, genetically predisposed to dislike Talking Heads or whatever, but to me, this album not being as diverse as Remain in the Light makes it less interesting. Remember that now that I do like Remain in the Light, it's still my lowest ranked 7 out of 10 album on my list. What else? I guess the sound of these songs is worse than the first 4 on Remain in the Light. You know, those songs sound more anxious as opposed to these ones which sound more poppy and slow. I guess my favorite was Girlfriend is Better, or maybe that's the only one I distinctly remember parts of. Tell you what I do know. I know these songs shouldn't have been an average of 5 minutes long. This album would have been way better if these songs were like 4, maybe even 3 minutes long on average, and there were just 1 or 2 extra songs to fill its place. Whatever, man, this album's a 6 out of 10. I'm sorry, Talking Heads. I guess you really are Slop Ah Band after all. Next up, on November 16th, was Getting Killed by Geese. Why did I listen to this album? Because I hadn't heard any other albums from 2025. Well, no, that's inaccurate. Let me explain. So my favorite album released in 2025 was the 2025 remaster of Close to the Edge. If that doesn't count because there's nothing new about it, then my favorite album released in 2025 is Hell to the Thief live recorded 2003-2009. If that doesn't count because it's also not new material, my favorite album released in 2025 was the soundtrack of DELTARUNE Chapters 3 and 4. If that doesn't count because it's a video game soundtrack, then I have nothing. So I listen to this album because it's popular. I don't know anything about Geese or about indie rock in general. I only listen to this album so I could have something to say about music that released in 2025. Fortunately, this album is good. I certainly don't appreciate it as much as other people do, and that's certainly because I haven't heard anything else indie rock. Except Radiohead. But I'm talking about, like, the stereotypical indie rock, you know, the acoustic, heavy, shitty vocalist, folk-inspired, you know, those sorts of things. Oh, and about the vocalist, I hate him. Cameron Winters sounds like he has the capacity to do some really interesting vocal stuff, but he just chooses to do a shitty Tom York impression instead. I think you can hear this well in the song Cobra, where it starts out with this deep, interesting, almost bubbly voice, and then he just abandons all that to do a fucking Tom York impression. What makes Tom York interesting as a vocalist is that he just sounds like that. You know, he doesn't have the capacity to do anything greater than what he does. Cameron Winters does have the capacity to do actually good vocals, but he chooses not to. Whatever, you got the point by now. While I haven't heard enough indie rock to really evaluate the album properly, I know I still liked it. My favorite track was Long Island City, Here I Come, because it's the most conceptual song, you know, has the biggest progression out of any song, and has those really interesting and cynically prose lyrics the rest of the album has. The rest of the album sounds like it really wants to be emotional, but it's too angry to even be emotional. And that's a really interesting sound. The album's really interesting. It's not exactly my thing, but that doesn't mean I disliked it. It's just like, there's some context about it I don't have that I would enjoy it a lot more if I had that context. Whatever, I've talked long enough about the album. It's a 7. After that was Filth by Swans on November 18th. So this album was deliberately created to be the harshest, most awful sounding, most sonically destructive album they could have possibly made. Now, did they succeed? Absolutely. This album is 36 minutes long, but it feels like 3 hours with how fucking wretched it is. I don't think I could describe the sound of this album accurately. I'm just going to literally write down the sounds heard in the album. Swans at the time consisted of 5 members, 2 drummers, 2 bassists, and 1 guitarist. The main sounds you hear throughout the album are the acute, stringy bass and the low-pitched, sharp drum noises. The guitar is not used as a main rhythmic sound, but instead used as a high-pitched, industrial-sounding, wailing background noise. The vocalist screams in these guttural screams, where there's not much lyrical content and you're not supposed to pay attention to the vocals. Both of the drummers were given a couple sheets of metal that they could hit with a stick at any point to make noises out of the hitting of the stick with a metal bar. The album also just cuts out sometimes, like the sound just abruptly stops. I don't fucking know. My favorite song on the album was Freak because it's the shortest at less than 2 minutes long, I guess. This album is fucking vile. To give it a number grade, I have to make an important distinction here. My number grades are based entirely on personal enjoyment. If they were based on how well the album accomplished what it set out to do, this album would be a 10. Honestly, I don't think I've ever heard a vision so uncompromised before. However, in terms of personal enjoyment, oh my god. Like, yeah, the album literally could not have done a better job at what it wanted to do. The thing is, what it wanted to do was be a completely horrific experience from beginning to end. So in terms of how much I enjoyed it, I give it a 3. I can't exactly give it a 0 because I did enjoy some of it. You know, it's kind of funny and I like the tape stop sound effects, but that's it. I can't believe I'm giving it the same score I gave Remaining Light originally. Following that was Flood by They Might Be Giants on November 20th. You know, it'd be so easy to just lie. It would be so easy to say, I've never heard this album. Because I just, oh my god. I did not like it. It kind of like, you know, like, neither of the vocalists are good, and then the instruments are bad and unimpressive, and then the songs aren't charming or funny, and the entire album is annoying, and there's also no redeeming qualities about it, and, like, okay, so if I was 13 when I first heard this album, I would be in love with it. That's why I love Tally Hall, because I was 13 when I first listened to them, but I'm I feel like I'm just too mature for an album like this. There's obviously a comparison here to make to Ween, right? But the thing is, Ween is actually built like that. It feels like whenever Ween makes a charming song, they're not even trying to, you know? They Might Be Giants, on the other hand, feels like they're deliberately trying to farm being charming and quirky and unique, and it's not good. The song, I didn't like it. I guess my favorite song was Sapphire Bullets of Pure Love because Charlie Kirk. The album's a 5. I don't know. Afterwards, on November 23rd, was Aladdin Sane by David Bowie. See, I liked the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars, and I heard this album was more glam rock than that album, so I was excited to check it out. However, what I didn't realize is that I was pretty much just getting glam rock confused with progressive rock, you know, with the big climaxes and the use of synths and other unique instruments, that kind of thing. So I was a little disappointed by the album. I mean, it's still good, it's just a lot more hard rock than I expected. I'm surprised to say I actually like the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust more. While Aladdin Sane theoretically has a better sound, Ziggy Stardust has a more diverse sound with a more operatic feel, surprisingly making it slightly better for me. Slightly better, like they're very close to each other. I'm not sure what my favorite track was, but I guess it was Cracked Actor if I had to pick one. I mean, that song has the most distortion on the guitar, so it's the coolest. I don't know. It's definitely a good album. For me, it's an 8. Finally, on November 27th was Exposure by Robert Fripp. This album's just full of surprises. Nearly every song is different than the last song of the album, with the album having a completely different feel at certain points, with tons of unique sounds, tons of unique songwriting decisions, and it's a bit much for one listen. I mean, you know, you can listen to it all in one sitting, but there's just a lot going on here. There's almost no real through line to any of it, even though the album flows like a concept album, but it's like, clearly not. Nearly every song talks about something different, with some tracks focusing on Buddhist philosophy, some tracks about the inevitability of climate change, some tracks having a vague New York City feel, some tracks being literally just feedback from the album from people who've heard it. It's a lot. The album not really having a through line and not really having a cohesive feel makes it hard to give it a number grade. It also makes it hard to pinpoint what my favorite song was. On any day, it could be NY3, Water Music, Breathless, really any number of songs. The only piece of commentary I can give about the album as a whole is that Robert Fripp is the greatest guitarist to ever live. And, like, I know I've said this in the past, but I can really believe it now. I guess I give the album an 8 to give it some kind of grade. In December, I listened to 3 albums. Hey, it's not the least I've heard this year. If this year is Hounds of Love, December is The Morning Fog. It's a nice little break after all the over-the-top insanity of the second half of the year. Let's finish the script up so I can actually start filming this goddamn video. First up, on December 3rd, was Pure Guava by Ween. This is the single worst sounding album I've ever heard in my entire life. This album sounds worse than Filth by Swans, which, if you remember, was explicitly created to sound horrific. What makes Filth horrible is that every song sounds the same. What makes Pure Guava horrible, and what makes it worse, is that every song sounds different. It has like 3 or 4 nice or fun songs in it that make you think, okay, I might have been a little harsh in the album. But then you put it on again and it's just, holy shit, I can't even describe the album like how I could describe Filth, because every song on it sounds different. And I can't describe most tracks because I don't know what they do to make it sound like that. Like, I can tell you Morning Glory is the worst sounding song I've ever heard in my entire life, but I can't tell you what that sounds like. I mean, it's playing in the review right now, you can hear it. But, like, while this is the worst sounding album I've ever heard in my life, it's not the worst? Maybe? I mean, honestly, I don't think I've actually heard any albums that are worse than this, but it's like, okay, so something like Vultures 2 by Kanye West is an objectively worse album than Pure Guava by Ween, but I haven't heard Vultures 2, so I'm not sure if I actually heard any albums that are worse than Pure Guava. Whatever, that's not relevant. I guess my favorite song is Don't Get Too Close to My Fantasy. I mean, the ending's pretty annoying with how the instruments abruptly end, just the chorus of voices, but the rest of the song is cool. The album is awful. Awful! It's very generously a 3 out of 10 because, again, like 3 or 4 songs on it aren't horrific. As After that, on December 9th, was The Beatles by The Beatles, the White Album. This is an album with no flow, where every song in it sounds different, with no coherent themes, where you can clearly tell which member is responsible for each song. And that's awesome. I love this. It's like every song you're in for something different. It's like you got a George Harrison ballad, followed by a proto-progressive rock super song, followed by a sweet little ditty, then an ironically sweet ditty that builds. And I literally just picked 4 random tracks in sequence of the album. It sounds like this album is playing on shuffle, but it's like every song on it is so good. I mean, except a couple songs which really annoy me, but you know. Given that I did a cover of it with my band, you would think Helter Skelter would be my favorite song on the album, but no, it's not. My favorite song on the album is Revolution 9. That's not a joke. That's like actually, the song is completely and utterly horrifying. It sounds like a psychotic breakdown inside the mind of John Lennon. It sounds like a badass trip sat in front of the TV during January 6th or some other horrifying news event. And it's an incredibly produced song. The fact that they did something like this, of this scope and scale in 1968, is just unfathomable. People pretend to hate Revolution 9 and then willingly put on Godspeed You Black Emperor. And I know most people who like Godspeed You Black Emperor are not the same people who vehemently dislike Revolution 9. And I only brought that up because that band pisses me off. But still, okay, the album, it's an 8. It's obviously a little long and a couple songs from it are really annoying, if not really bad. But overall, it's really damn good. The album's really damn good. And finally, the last album I heard the entire year was To Be Kind by Swans on December 14th. This album, man, it's 2 hours long for one. That's pretty long. It is a song on it that's 34 minutes long. That's pretty long. So the primary reason I listened to this album is because I put on Oxygen earlier before listening to it, and I listened to it, without exaggeration, at least 100 times. So I wanted to put on the rest of the album, and I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about this album. Here's something. While Subject for the Blind obviously has a less consistent sound than To Be Kind, it has a more consistent feel in my eyes. That is to say, I don't know how To Be Kind wants me to feel. It's clearly not supposed to be too gripping or too atmospheric, otherwise it wouldn't have had that Eric Cartman voice on Just a Little Boy, or it wouldn't have the line, "You name is fuck, 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 fuck" on She Loves Us. Hey, listen, I made a bit of a mistake here. I actually had the wrong line here. I was mixing together 2 lines from the song. The actual line as it's written in the song is, "You name it's fuck, 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 fuck." That's the actual line in the song. Sorry. It's definitely not meant to be silly, though, because otherwise it wouldn't waste 34 minutes of my time with Bring the Sun / To Saint Louverture. It's obviously not meant to be too rocky, but it's obviously still rocky. It's obviously not too serious, but it's obviously too serious. God, even the cover can't decide what it wants to be. It's white sometimes on streaming, gold on Wikipedia, brown on Bandcamp. Okay, enough dogging on this album. It has its highlights. Oxygen, as previously mentioned, is fantastic. Some of the climaxes are really cool, like Screenshot, Natalie Neal, the intro to Bring the Sun, they're cool. The title track is fantastic, the best on the entire album, and one of the best songs I've ever heard in my entire life. That's just the thing, though. The title track is a relatively standard post-rock track. And, like, this isn't a relatively standard post-rock album. Thinking about the identity of this album, it seems like its identity is in the longer tracks, the ones which can't make up their goddamn mind about how rock they are and how post-rock they are. Again, I'm being too harsh on this album. It's a good album. I really can't give it a number ranking because it's 2 goddamn hours long and more than a quarter of that runtime is one goddamn song. But it's like, it's good. It's not as good as Soundtrack for the Blind, but it's good. I hope this video made it abundantly clear, but this year really changed my life. The albums I listened to took me to so many places. I was crushed, I was uplifted, I was delighted, I was horrified. I was shown the beauty of the stars and the horror of the cosmos. I was spoken to on deeply personal levels. I felt mountains move and I felt pins drop. I was beyond moved throughout the entire year. My favorite albums moved me like no other piece of art has, despite albums being the most accessible art medium out there. Now, obviously, not everything I wrote about is going to be for you. Not everything I wrote about was for me. However, I absolutely implore you to check out everything that sounded interesting to you. And if you're somebody who's had their life changed by albums like I have, then please tell me about it. I love to read what you think, and I mean, it's only fair given that you just sat here for damn near 2 hours listening to what I think. If you disagree with me on an album, tell me about that too. Tell me what an album means to you. Please, man, please, I've been stuck on Flood for months and I still don't understand what anybody sees in it. I hope you gained something out of this video. I would imagine you did, again, given that you're still here, but still. Thank you so much for listening. Listen to Tales from Topographic Oceans. Bye.